This is just the beginning. That's the world that we live in. Let me help you believe in what we can do when we stand united. We are one with the world. We can make a brighter tomorrow. Together make a change. It's our life. We can't step back from what we know is right. So let's shine our light. Oh, let's shine our light. We won't listen to what they're saying. We know it's just love that we're giving to this place that we call our home. We can't change what's been done, but it's still our run. We are one with the world. We can make a brighter tomorrow. Together make a change. It's our life. We can't step back from what we know is right. So let's shine our light.
Hi, I'm Sanjay Roy, the co-chair of the Catalyzing Change Week Programming Committee. Welcome to Catalyzing Change Week 2024. This is where we'll not just have conversations, but we'll actually see change. We'll see change makers, innovators within the social space. You'll meet government folks and funders. You'll see people who've done excellent good practice that we can learn from. And most importantly, it'll be a place to network, learn, and exchange ideas. So do dive right in to the Catalyzing Change Week 2024 and enjoy the experience.
Good morning, everyone. Or afternoon or evening, depending on where you are. I'm very early in the morning here on the west coast of America. Welcome to this session, inaugural session of this Catalyzing Change Week, which has already, I think, in its few years become an important fixture on the in our world of trying to address these huge challenges we're facing and bring about the sort of systems change that's needed for us to achieve the SDGs and climate sustainability. Today, we are very honored to be continuing part of, I think, what's been a theme of Catalyst's life from the start, which is to tap into the growing excitement between those in government and multilateral leadership positions and those in the social entrepreneur and social innovation movements about how we can work together much better to leverage up the expertise of the people on the ground in the social entrepreneurship world through working in great creative partnerships with our political and governmental leaders from around the world. And I'm going to ask each of our panelists to introduce themselves and explain what they're up to at this moment, briefly at a high level. Then Chiru is going to give some initial thoughts on just where we are now as Catalyst, what Catalyst is all about. We'll have a bit of a back and forth with the panelists, and then we'll have some questions from you. So please put those in the chat, and I will keep an eye on those to bring them in a bit later in this conversation. So with no further ado, over to you, Chiru Bilimoria. Just to introduce yourself very briefly, and then I'm going to turn to Felipe Reis from Brazil and Nijar Abidari from Azerbaijan.
Thank you, Matthew. Hi, everybody. Welcome, Felipe and Nigar, for being with us. It's a true honor to have you all with us. Thank you, Matthew, for facilitating. Everyone in Catalyst is really, really excited about having our two guest speakers. My name is Juru Bilamoria, and I am the co-founder of Catalyst 2030 and the chief facilitator. Thank you very much, and back to you, Matthew.
Yes, over to you, Felipe.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here. I'm Felipe Reis. I'm the sous Sherpa of G20 for Brazil. I'm a career diplomat, and I'm posted here in Brasilia, and now up to the end of November, trying to organize as best as we can all meetings and all events that we have in G20.
Brilliant. And Nigar.
Good afternoon, dear friends. My name is Nigar Arpadaray. I am a member of Parliament of Azerbaijan, and I'm the UN Climate Change High-Level Champion for COP29. It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you both. And Juru, looking forward to this great conversation. So Juru, do you want to kick us off briefly with a little bit, for those that don't know, about Catalyst 2030, but also Catalyzing Change Week, and why this community started doing this?
Sure. Catalyst 2030 is the largest network of social entrepreneurs and innovators from across the world. We currently have members in more than 134 countries, and through Catalyzing Change Week, we will be live and having active chapters in 75 countries. In Brazil, we do have a chapter, and I hope we'll soon have a chapter in Azerbaijan. So I think it's really good. The chapters are led by our members. Why did we start Catalyst? We started as a WhatsApp group, but we started Catalyst to accelerate our impact. So speaking for myself as an entrepreneur, I was reaching close to 100 million children, but I thought, okay, if we worked with others, how could we join together to accelerate our impact? Together, Catalyst entrepreneurs are impacting the lives of over 2 billion people around the world. But we think that if we worked with the G20, if we worked with COP, if we worked with different ecosystem partners, we could take this impact even further and really shift the paradigm. So with Matthew Bishop, when we actually launched, we said crisis to systems change. How can we change the systems so that we as social innovators can really get the voices of the people from the front lines, people who work directly with the communities to the policymakers. And I think that's what we are really trying to do. We are trying to do that with COP, where we are saying, can we have social innovators speaking across all the different pillars, and specifically a pillar on social innovation in COP. And similarly, in Brazil, many of our entrepreneurs are already very actively involved, as you know, Felipe, with the G20 presidency. But we also want to be able to see how can we probably have a SI20, a social innovation 20. So essentially, in a nutshell, in one sentence, how can people like me from the front lines, who work with the front lines, actually have a seat at the table and shape policies and decisions? So I think that's it in a very quick nutshell.
And just one quick follow-up: why specifically do you want to build? Why does Catalyst want to build the social innovation sector?
There is the business sector, which has a seat at the table. There's a medical sector, which has a seat, which knows. But nobody really knows about social innovation. Nobody really, and if we were a sector, our impact could be accelerated. My favorite analogy is we are this wonderful house with very nice rooms everywhere, but what we lack is plumbing, electricity, water, gas. In a sense, very much like the communities we serve, the rural areas, the slum communities. If we became a sector, we could actually be able to accelerate the impact. So by strengthening social entrepreneurs, we would move from the current very rural, very village, disintegrated structures where we don't have the infrastructure to creating the infrastructure where we can accelerate our impact and bring about the change we want to see. Because I truly believe, Matthew, that if we become a social innovation sector, the SDGs could be achieved for sure. Financing would come. And that's, I think, what's really important.
Felipe, I know there's a lot of excitement about the G20 presidency being in the hands of Brazil because of both Brazil's record in embracing social innovation and so many Catalyst members that we have in Brazil, but also the sort of strong position on climate and on the just transition that your president is taking. Can you tell us a bit about, I mean, these are early days, what's the focus of Brazil's G20 going to be?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Matthew. Well, the first thing is in the preparation last year for our presidency, we got some very clear instructions by the president, by the cabinet of the president and the president he himself regarding the sort of what would be the DNA of the G20 presidency, the Brazilian G20 presidency. And if you concentrate yourself in the motto that we put forward, building a just world and a sustainable planet, it has already some indication about where we would be coming from in our presidency. And then we had 3 priorities, but we put forward 3 priorities. And the first one is social inclusion and the fight against hunger and poverty. This issue, as you know, is an issue very, very close to the heart of the president. All the efforts by Brazil to be put outside of the hunger map in 2014, and this is an issue very important for us. The second priority is energy transitions and the promotion of sustainable development. But here we want to emphasize sustainable development. We're talking about the 3 pillars of sustainable development. Of course, there is the climate one, is a very important one. But for us, there can only be sustainable development if together with climate, environment, we have also the economic pillar and the social pillar. Otherwise, we cannot talk about sustainable development if the 3 pillars, 2 of them are missing. And the third priority is the reform of the global governance institutions. Of course, this is not an easy task. We are not naive, believing that we are going to solve this problem, but what we want is to give political impetus to the reform. We're talking about the United Nations, we're talking about the Bretton Woods institutions, the IMF and the World Bank, we're talking about WTO. And our understanding is that there is no point in negotiating wonderful agreements, having wonderful agreements in general, if the governance is not there in order to ensure that those decisions are really implemented in a legitimate way, hearing all voices in a really to be effective. So that there's no escape. We need to talk about the reform of the international governance. So in a nutshell, this is the approach where we are coming with our presidency. As I said, this is something that for everyone that knows President Lula, everything that our positions, this is should not be a surprise. This is really where we are coming from. But on the top of that, I think that this is the general, as I said, the general priorities of the presidency. But actually, also we got very specific instructions, 2 very specific instructions for us to build our presidency. The first one was to ensure a better conversation between the 2 pillars, the two tracks of the work of G20. I'm talking about the government, the 2 tracks under the government side of G20. We have the Sherpa track and the financial track. The financial track is the one that is really in the beginning of G20 in '98, the financial crisis. So it's where G20 started. So it's the origin of G20 is this financial sort of discussion. And today it's we call it the financial track. And after 2008, then there was a sort of a G20 went to the leaders level, and actually there was a little bit of widening of the scope of G20. Actually, it was about development, in a more broader sort of approach. And then you have now the Sherpa track, and it's where we discuss policies in different areas. You have a working group on education, on health, on tourism, on agriculture. We have 15 working groups, and this is where we discuss policies. But as I said, the orientation that we got is to increase the conversation between the two tracks. Because traditionally, you have the financial colleagues very much involved with technicalities of the international financial system. And then you have the discussion on the policy side, but actually running a little bit in parallel. And actually it makes no sense, because at the end of the day, what you need is finance to finance your policies. So there is the need to have a better conversation between the two tracks. So we got this orientation right in the beginning. And actually we had already a joint meeting of the senior officials, I would say, of the Sherpa track and the financial track. So they come together to discuss, to have a unified view on the G20 process. And also this sort of connection also can be seen besides the 15 working groups that we have in the Sherpa track. Brazil put forward also suggested 2 task forces. Those task forces are meant to last only our presidency. So we are not trying to avoid this sort of G20 getting bigger and bigger. But of course, if members decide to continue the task force for the next presidency, it's open to members to decide. But actually, we are suggesting a task force on the Global Alliance Against Hunger. This is one of the deliverables that we want to achieve. And actually, it's a joint task force. It's exactly to show that we need policies and finance to come together in order to deliver really powerful results. And the other task force is a task force on action on climate. It's the same sort of approach, is to ensure that actually you have the necessary means really to tackle. But again, it's not only the climate, it's sustainable development. So it's to ensure that actually you are going to address the issue of climate, also incorporating the social needs of the people and the economic side. It's not something, isolated. And yeah, this was as I said, besides the priorities, this was a general orientation for our presidency. This increased work with the two joint work with the two tracks. And the other one that we got a very clear message from the cabinet of the president was to ensure a better conversation between the G part of G20, the government, and civil society in general. Because this is something that actually can lots of ways to be improved. And here I'm talking not only regarding the engagement groups. Those engagement groups are the groups that are really they are already on track for some years now. Some were created last year, and you have 12 engagement groups. But you have also different sectors of civil society that are very important. They have legitimate requests, opinions, or assessment, but actually they are not characterized as engagement groups. So our orientation was to keep a very fluid contact, the work together with civil society. And with regard to Catalyst, I'm talking to the future Brazilian chapter with Giroux as well, several times, different heads, but always with the same approach, is to increase contact and to ensure that governments are not speaking, in a vacuum. There is a world, there is a reality, and we have to ensure that actually they are all heading into the same direction. in order to make this sort of interaction really more concrete, it's not only me, Felipe, speaking to everyone. We are providing an opportunity for the engagement groups. In July, there is the Sherpa meeting. Sherpa is I would say the CEO of G20, is the direct representation of the leaders, and the Sherpa are the responsible for really to put everything, together in order to have the leaders' declaration. So we're going to have a meeting in July, and we are going to provide an opportunity for the engagement groups to come forward and to address directly the Sherpas and to convey opinions, requests, assessment, recommendations in different areas, in the different areas. So it would be an opportunity really to give the possibility for civil society to address governments directly and to share their views or what they believe government should listen. And on the top of that, we are also organizing 14, 15, 16 of November in Rio, what we are calling the G20 Social Summit. This one is something completely new in G20. There is nothing like this, has never been something like this. And it would be an opportunity for all sorts of representation of civil society, not only the ones organized under engagement groups, but for really all different actors of society to come forward, to have an opportunity to express their views, to discuss, and to share what they believe should be considered by government. So this would be something, we are expecting something really big in Rio. It's still in the process of being organized, because something new always poses some challenges in terms of logistics on how we're going to do this. But it's going to be something, I think, one of the marks of the Brazilian presidency, this opportunity, this close contact really with civil society, all sorts of representation of civil society. So in a nutshell, this is our approach to the presidency. This is how we are working and what we're doing. I hope I was sufficiently clear, but if there are questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Yeah, Felipe, you were wonderfully clear, and I think your energy and openness and your desire to be inclusive, is very exciting. I've talked to Sherpas in the past, in my many years observing the international scene, and I'm very excited that someone like you is in this role, and look forward as Catalyst to working with you. It's been very interesting, your point about governance, in that, I mean, I think the G20 after the financial crisis was one of the two biggest and most exciting innovations in global governance that happened, in terms of really reflecting the power shift that needed to happen, to bring, not just the old rich countries of the West to the table, but to give everyone a voice. And it's also been interesting to watch it over the years as the B20 and other, the business group, and then the philanthropy group and others, sort of made it a multi-stakeholder governance system, not just a government governance system. And it is exciting that you're actually looking to bring in civil society and social innovation to the table. My hope is that, although it's the last piece, it is the missing piece in the jigsaw, and that you will really see that the process works even better as a result of that. And we'll come back and talk about that a bit more in this conversation. The other, I think, big global governance innovation in the international agenda has been the emergence of COP, and particularly the climate COP, but also in the nature COP as well, as also multi-stakeholder activities that have not just been about government. And I think the COP that was held in the UAE had for the first time a business and philanthropy track as part of the formal agenda. Unfortunately, not the full social innovation, social sector part, and maybe that's going to be something that Nigar's going to bring up as well. But I'd like to turn to you, Nigar, and just get a sense of what your thinking is as the champion for this COP later this year, and specifically how you're thinking about bringing the social innovation sector to the table as well. Over to you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for having me, dear friends, dear ladies and gentlemen. It's a very interesting discussion, and I would like to share a couple of ideas. Well, basically, it's a pleasure to be here to open the Catalyst Change Week 2024 to highlight the crucial role of the climate action to contribute to sustainable development and reflect how non-state actors like social innovators play a key role in the transformations needed for a resilient planet. Well, there are 3.6 billion people who live in a highly vulnerable climate change context. This is according to IPCC. And from this, nearly 1 billion lives in a fragile and conflict-affected states, according to IMF. So small island developing states and least developed countries face the most challenges. Well, despite the clear signs of accelerating climate risks and impacts worldwide, climate finance is not deployed equally across geographies, and adaptation finance gap is widening. The scale of climate financing needs are vast, with 2.4 trillion required by emerging and developing countries by 2030. So a mosaic solutions and financing mechanisms are needed, and mobilizing the skills, scale, and innovation of the private sector is essential, and especially to enable the voices and local solutions of the most impacted that are usually not at the table. We have urgency to act, dear friends, and catalyzing climate solutions, financing, and delivery mechanisms are urgently needed to ensure effective action in the face of disasters and crisis situations. Slashing global emissions must go hand in hand with building the capacity of vulnerable countries to adapt to climate shocks and build long-term resilience of people, nature, and infrastructure. I am the high-level champion for COP29, but high-level champions have done a number of activities and initiatives in this direction. Like high-level champions, goal is that non-state actors, leadership, and collaboration help deliver a net zero, resilient, nature positive, and equitable world by 2050 at the very latest. This means driving sustainable development, halving global emissions, making 4 billion of the most vulnerable people more resilient to climate change, halting and revising nature laws, and aligning global financial flows by 2030. The core actions we engage with non-state actors to achieve this are detailed in Sharm el-Sheikh Adaptation Agenda 2030 Breakthrough, which serve as guiding agendas for climate action, as well as Race to Zero and Race to Resilient campaigns, which drive collective and ambitious non-state actor pledges and delivery. We are supporting call for collaborations for public and private adaptation finance to scale actions, innovations, and leadership on adaptation and resilience finance, and are forming a business adaptation leaders group in Sharm el-Sheikh Adaptation Agenda to foster private sector solutions across key thematic areas like food and agriculture, water, oceans, nature, health, energy, finance, transport. We basically, dear friends, we are pleased to recognize the role of social innovators in our collective fights against climate change, and your ability to empower local vulnerable groups with inclusivity, engage and collaborate at local levels with co-create solutions, aggregate micro, small, and medium enterprises, associations, and initiatives to implement system change are critical asset that need to be strongly embedded in the global climate change agenda. And that's why, from that perspective, we are, of course, encouraging you to help to enhance already existing initiatives like Race to Resilience. For example, we need to make sure that small businesses benefit from climate finance and they are giving enough resources and capabilities to do it. We need to make sure that green standards and technologies as well as R&Ds are used justly. We need to reimagine urban development, transform agriculture, waste management, health systems, and shape new financing approaches, among others. And the challenge is huge, obviously, but by activating and building on the work of non-state actors, a more secure, equitable, and inclusive world is possible. And this is the idea that we will be promoting at COP29. As countries also update their NDCs, we need businesses, financial institutions, cities, states, and civil society to be countries' partners in developing ambitious but pragmatic solutions. And that's why we welcome the opportunity to collaborate with you on this journey and look forward to welcoming you in Azerbaijan for COP29. And we believe that Baku will be a great platform for all the voices being heard. Because Azerbaijan is committed to serving as an honest and principled facilitator of this agenda. We see COP29 as an excellent chance for our small and proud nation to learn and contribute to this truly global cause. That's why, dear friends, as high-level champion, I will be engaging with non-state actors, and I would like to consider consider me as your allies in this perspective. And we are absolutely open to all the ideas from that point of view. We will be doing our best to welcome you all in Baku in November. And if there is anything, any collaboration, any partnership that you think can work, please just do reach out to us. Let's make it happen, because we really understand the value and we really understand the urgency of the case. Well, I think I will stop at this stage. Thank you so much.
Yeah, again, another very encouraging answer. Thank you very much. I'm going to have a follow-up question. I just want to quickly remind everyone that wants to put questions in to come to later that we have a Q&A function on the website here, the app. So please use that function rather than the chat or anything. But Nigar, to come back, Felipe did a great job of explaining what a Sherpa is. And for those of us that aren't maybe so immersed in all the roles and jargon and titles that go around the COP, can you just explain what a high-level champion actually does and how you're different, I guess, from the chairperson or whatever of the COP?
Well, thank you so much. Well, there are a couple of positions in the COP presidency team. Basically, we have lead negotiator who is supporting the team by negotiating with the governments, let's say, to come to a certain consensus on the COP subject. And there is a high-level champion. High-level champion's role is to engage with non-party stakeholders, like businesses, like civil society, philanthropy organizations, like cities and municipalities. So there is a number of stakeholders that are part of COP process, and the role of high-level champion is to work with them, to engage, and to make sure that their voices are being also heard. And especially in COP29, our subject is climate finance, as you know. So the whole world will come together to discuss and to understand how this overall green transition can be financed, by whom and how. From that point of view, well, the role of business is extremely important, because, and one of the priorities of high-level champion, like of my role and myself, is to engage with business sector, but to make sure that there's an inclusivity. So that's why I think that your voices need to be heard, and there are things that your group can do, and we are here basically to listen to you, to hear how can you contribute to overall goal of sustainability in the world of climate finance and the green transition. And we are here to kind of to coordinate and to work with you, basically. Yes, we have a couple of months before COP, and as you know, the decision on Azerbaijan's hosting COP was taken on a later stage. So basically, all other countries have around 2 years to prepare. We have less, but we are extremely honored and excited, and we understand the urgency and the need of all the discussions. So that's why the role of high-level champion is also to make sure that there is a continuity, because there are a number of initiatives and actions that have been taking place at all the COP in the COP process. Champions have been promoting, like Race to Zero, for example. So we want to take this legacy and to bring our contribution to the process and to make one step forward. So basically, every COP brings us to the step forward towards the goal that we all have.
Well, thank you. And I know there's lots of people, lots of members of the Catalyst 2030 community who are thinking about climate, thinking about nature-based solutions, and certainly the vast majority of the movement is involved in different ways in building up community resiliency and the ability to respond effectively to the challenges that people on the ground, particularly in more difficult situations, are facing. So I think there's a enormous appetite on our side to work with you going forward. I wanted to come to both of you actually, and I'll start with Felipe, just to dig a bit deeper, because I think one of my, I was with The Economist for many years as a journalist, and went to many international gatherings and so forth, and followed the G20 process, the COP process, and G7 before that as well. But often found that even when, often civil society and social innovation was completely ignored, and when people talked about private sector involvement, it really, the image was it would be the big businesses, not even the small businesses. I'm hearing from both of you quite a different rhetoric around that, but even when civil society has been there, it's often been in the room but not at the table. And I'm very interested to know, how you see the opportunity to, in a bit more detail, to really integrate the voices of social innovation into the table, because I think, candidly, the reason we failed so much to actually solve the big problems is because we've ignored the voice of the people who really know best what needs to be done too often. So Felipe, what specifically, I think we with the previous, with the Indian Sherpa, we had a recommendation to set up this Social Innovation 20, the SI 20. Do you think that's a good idea? Is that something you want to explore further?
Hi, Matthew. I think it's an excellent initiative. It's definitely, as you mentioned, the missing part of the whole picture. There is one. I think I want to be very, very frank. There is, I think, we have to keep expectations also under control, because, of course, the G20 is, you are talking about 21 governments, simplifying. So it's an official setting of meetings. So to imagine the possibility that actually you bring civil society into the room to discuss, it's not realistic, to be honest. It's something that goes beyond the willingness of the presidency, because actually I depend on consensus. We need all to get into an agreement, and definitely this is beyond really possibilities of having everyone in the room. It's an official meeting, but this does not mean, should not mean, this lack of opportunity to really to hear, to listen, to have the inputs of civil society. So what we managed to do, as I mentioned, was to give the engagement groups the possibility to, there is one session of the meeting actually in July, that we are going to allow the engagement groups to come forward and to make a statement and to share in a one-page document actually the views, as I said, views, suggestions, recommendations, requests directly to Sherpas. So it would be really a sort of the way that we manage to accommodate all concerns, but to give a real opportunity to civil society to address governments. And actually, the timing of this opportunity is also very important, because if, well, the process of the meetings of G20 is a little bit a sort of a, it goes, you start with VDCs in the beginning of the presidency, then you move to technical meetings, and then you move to ministerials, and then you end up with the leaders. So if this opportunity for civil society to reach governments would be given too late in the process, actually, it would be something, with no practical sort of purpose, because it would be too late for those ideas to somehow to influence ministerial declarations, to influence a leader's declaration. So the idea was to give not only an opportunity for civil society to address governments, but also in a time of the process that would allow ideas to, go up for ministers, for leaders. Of course, there is no automaticity in this. Whatever comes from civil society would have to be discussed by the 21 members of G20 and then agreed. So it's one should not expect that anything that's put on the table is going to, to the leader's declaration. That's not how it works. But at least now we have the possibility to really listen from, as you said, the real world, actually what they believe, what they want. So this is something important. Now, as I said, the social innovators to come forward, it's really very important. And I think that the more, the better. organize civil society. That's the best way to you really convey messages, to be strong, to have a strong voice. And this is really a very good initiative. We are supporting all initiatives in this regard, and social innovators are definitely a very important part of this.
Great, and Nigar, I think one of the innovations, as I said in the last COP28, was to have a business and philanthropy track that actually had a sort of formal session as part of the formal agenda in the Blue Zone and everything. But I think that what was lacking from that was the representation of the civil society and sector, and particularly social innovators. Is that one area where you think you could probably add our voice to the table, or are you thinking about other specific ways in which we can be as a sector represented?
Thank you for this question. We definitely looking into it, and at this stage, it's an early for me to make any kind of announcement or etc. But I will definitely discuss it internally as well, because for me, it's a kind of a period where I am now engaging with all the stakeholders. I'm traveling around the world, meeting people, understanding the expectations, because the role of a champion, as I said, is to engage with non-state actors, which are different groups. And the good thing about that is that all of these groups have their aspirations. They all have their needs. They all have their expectations from COP29. And it's our job to collect it all, to see how can we incorporate it all. But I agree with Philippe is that the social innovators need to step forward, and conveying the message is very important. Their dialogues with their governments is very important, with policymakers, because each region is different from each country's region. In each country, there are certain dynamics. But globally, your role is increasing, and it's huge, actually, especially when we speak about some global actions like climate change, like climate finance. So how can we possibly solve it without all parties' involvement? There's no way. There are so many promises, but they will not be achieved unless everyone is involved, unless everyone is contributing to the process. So yes, thank you for having me here today, and I will definitely continue the conversation with this group, and we will see how can we make sure that your group is also being present at COP in the process. But business and philanthropy, yes, you're absolutely right. We will also continue this track, and let's continue this conversation.
Great. Jury, did you want to jump in on anything at this point?
I just want to say thank you both to Felipe and to Nigar, because this is really, for us, this is the inaugural session for Catalyzing Change Week. And the fact that you all are so open and willing to take on social innovators and include them in the discussion, to me is really, really very heartening, because that means we can continue the dialogue with both of your countries. I mean, with both of you. So Nigar, we would love to continue and see how social innovators can do it. Many of our innovators have solutions which can be scaled for climate adaptation, resilience, the whole thing. So working with you all to be able to see how to scale those solutions, which are for the, like you said, for the most marginalized, for the LDC, for countries in conflict. Instead, I saw questions from our our members who are in refugee camps saying, how can we work on climate solutions in refugee camps? It would be great. Agriculture, we have the solutions. So give us the forum to showcase those solutions and take them through for COP. And I see a great continuum from Azerbaijan to Brazil, because Brazil is talking about social and G20 social, and then we will have COP in Brazil. So I would love it if you, because you will continue sort of, you'll be the continuing link also, Nigar, and then it will move to Brazil where it is. So I'm hoping that between COP in Azerbaijan, G20 in Brazil, then COP in Brazil, we can actually create the triangle to put social innovators at the central position, and to have those solutions which we have, which are scalable and just not talk. We can make those solutions implementable and actually hope to make a dent towards achieving the SDGs. I saw in the chat only 15% of the SDGs are on track, and Matthew heads a group which can give you some more harsh statistics. But if we are able to really work with social innovators, we can do it. Also, we have social innovators have worked out forms of financing. Everyone's talked about the 4 trillion deficit in financing. Actually, we have working groups within Catalyst which have come up with solutions where we could actually make quite a big dent if we have the support of the G20 and we have the support of COP to be able to bring that financing to the social innovators. So we can even look at how to make that happen. So for us, we are not talking about problems. We are coming to you with a whole bowl of a lot of solutions and saying, listen to us, take our solutions. So Felipe, when you talk, and we are there with them. So that's what I would say. My last thing is, Felipe, when you take the track on, because I know you'll want to launch this new track, try to make sure social innovators actually have a seat at the table, not just, and I've been to many, many G20 negotiations since it started in my earlier life also. And I know that there is a way to influence it. Instead, we have a working group which is going to launch on Wednesday, which is Government Champions for Social Innovation, which Germany, Brazil, Portugal, a few countries are launching. And I think it would be a very good connection between COP, G20, and social innovation if we can get this. And these are going to be local champions in every government whom we hope to create and to take forward. So I think there's a real good circle where we can work jointly with both of you to develop the social innovation sector, which is the theme for Catalyst. So really looking forward to that. Yeah, Matthew.
Yeah, thank you, Chiru. I mean, I do think one of the reasons that Catalyst 2030 was formed was to, I guess, respond to the thing that I used to hear a lot from people in government and to some extent in business, which was, well, we'd love to have the civil society and social innovation sectors at the table, but we don't know who to talk to. It's a bit like Henry Kissinger's famous comment about Europe: is I don't know who, when I want to pick up the phone, who do I call? And so now with Catalyst 2030, there's a group that's organized, but also I think one of the things that's really evolved within Catalyst 2030 has been a policy expertise that's come out of sharing experience from people on the front line. So when you think about nature markets and nature-based solutions that require local communities to, who maybe haven't been very commercial in the past, to be part of the solution, a lot of the people in our organization are going to have expertise in that front. But Colin McElwee, who's one of our founders, posted a question in the Q&A, which was, what else can we do as a sector to be more helpful to you so that we can do a better job of sharing the networks and the expertise that we have. And I'd like to ask each of you that question, some advice for us. Felipe, do you want to go first?
Well, it's well, of course, this is the 1 million question. I think it's very difficult to have a one-size-fits-all solution or a sort of a recipe about how to succeed. In my humble view, I think that it's important for social innovators not to wait for any special blessing or approval. I think that there is really an enormous contribution social innovators can bring to the table, and I think that the most important issue is concentrate on this contribution. I mean, for instance, being part of the organization of the G20, I realized that, but you can't even imagine the number, the thousands and thousands of pages and documents, and everything comes to me and everything. So it's very difficult for you to try, okay, what is the main message? So if social innovators, Catalyst, if you could some sort narrow down in a sort of a 1 page, 2 page sort of, okay, these are the messages we want to convey, or something that is really focused, short. Okay, you need studies or in order to give some background to what you're saying, but concentrate in a document, something that can easily be, put in the hand of a minister. Those are the ideas. This is the suggestion. This is what they come. They're coming forward with this sort of solution or whatever. I think this would be really helpful in order to say, okay, this is a valuable input. We are going to use this, and then naturally, social innovators become an essential sort of part of the discussion. So it's a question of how to frame, how to present, to put forward. The more representation, I think that catalyst, the question of representation is more than fulfilled this requirement. So if everything, all those inputs are narrowed down into a 1 or 2 page document saying what is the message, what is the suggestion, I think that it would be extremely helpful and for governments how to process this and how to make best use of this input.
Nigar, the same question to you.
Well, what I think about, as I understand, you are asking me how you can be more active and what should be done as a future steps.
Well, how we can be
yeah.
most helpful to do a better job of helping you in your job and in the job of the COP to really help the world.
Well, first of all, I would like to say that it's great that we have such an organization as catalyzing, like Catalyst 2030, right? As I understand and as I know, it's bringing together people, more than 4,000 people from more than 100 countries of the world. It's a great number and it's a great community. But I think that you need more maybe of awareness building, because there are many regions, many countries that this community is not that active. So I think that you need to kind of explain more and to share more of what are the goals, what are you doing, how can people, businesses join your, let's say, directions. This is something that needs to be done just to overall increase the outreach of the community. But from our perspective, from COP perspective, as I said, we are open for collaboration. If you have any concrete ideas that you see yourself within COP, please just send it to us. Let's have a separate discussion with you and we will see what can be done. So basically, we have certain focus, but we are, but the goal is to have an inclusive COP. So basically, that's why we are open for collaboration. And as I said, so I will be looking forward for continuing this conversation. This is the first time that I'm joining your team, your group of people, and I'm really honored, and I want to continue this collaboration and the conversation.
Great. So there are lots of questions that have been put in that I think are quite specific to particular problems and issues. So I don't think probably it makes sense at this late stage to get off into one of those issues in depth, although each of them I think would generate a great conversation. So really what I wanted to do was just to sort of bring it to this great conversation to an end by asking each of you, as you take on these amazing roles, what are you going to consider a successful outcome? What's going to make you feel job well done, Felipe, job well done, Nigar? I've really made the most of this to make a difference in the world. Is there one thing above all else that's going to stand out for you? And maybe, Nigar, you want to go first on that?
Well, yes, that's a very good question. And I am being asked from a number of people, honestly, that how do you see successful COP? Well, successful COP for me is obviously, for our team, is when all the countries are coming together and having some consensus on the certain subjects. But I also want to say at the high level champion, more people and non-state actors being engaged. And also, it's not only about the COP, I want to see it as a long-term process, because COP will be and will pass from one country to another, but I want to see more collaboration maybe between the stakeholders and some initiatives that are being followed by another initiatives. So for example, now we have a troika with UAE, with Baku and Belém, which I think is a successful mechanism, because there are so many things that have been done we will have our contribution. But single COP is not solving anything. You know, whenever you have continuation as a chain of events, then this is success. So for me, if we will see many organizations, many people being involved, everyone have their voices. Obviously, we will not be able to basically host all the possible initiatives. We need to put a focus and priorities, but we would like to have you all on board.
And Felipe, same question to you.
Yeah, I think I would be really, really happy if by the end of our presidency, we hear from you guys, from, you know, non-state actors, you know, a sense of satisfaction that actually we managed to improve this conversation with civil society. Of course, there is no perfection. As Nigar said, you can always, you know, it's endless possibilities, but you have to focus, you have to do something. Sometimes a baby step is better than no step at all. So I would be really happy if by the end of our presidency, there is this recognition by civil society that, yeah, we had an opportunity to, you know, to voice our views, and this is going into the right direction.
Thank you. And I do hope that, you know, having the two of you on this call will help also ensure more and more conversation and alignment between the COP and the G20 processes as well, which I think sometimes in the past have not been as well coordinated. And I feel like you're both very highly aligned in what you're saying. So hopefully we'll see lots of great fruit coming out of this conversation between you two. Drew, I'm going to give you the last word, just reflections on what you've heard, and then we'll bring the conversation to a close.
So seeing by a lot of messages which are flooding in the chat and lots of messages, my WhatsApp is bursting. Everyone is super excited, both with what Nigar and Felipe have said. We really think that both of you, we feel as if you all are our champions and our voices in taking the voice of social innovation forward. And like you all have offered, look forward to having a follow-up conversation with both of you to see how we can structurally align in all the processes which are there. In CCW, we do have two things happening. One is a COP session where we hope to come up with what we can do with COP. Another is a session actually on how we can give recommendations to the G20 in Brazil. And a lot of members are contributing. So I do hope that we can work really closely. And maybe next year when we have y'all on the call, we are able to say, y'all helped take a very concrete step, a small step, because as we said, it's a long way in building the social innovation sector and making the voices of the communities reach the tables, because just now they don't. And I'm going to say a quote from my street kids who really influenced me, because that was my work. Everybody ignores us. We wish someone were there to hear us. And Didi make that happen. That's elder sister. So I'm hoping that me and my other community people could make the voices of my street kids, communities, people in rural areas, bring those voices to you and see the change we want to make happen. That's really my wish. And y'all are now social innovators in your respective systems, helping us. So let's make that happen. Really, for me, that's the most important.
You.
Over to you.
Thank you.
Yes, well, thank you very much again. I think it's been a great conversation. I think all of us as social innovators know full well how hard this work is, and certainly in today's very challenging world, you know, people who step up and serve in the way that you're both doing, you know, deserve our thanks. And so I'd like to say thank you to you both, not just for being here today, but for your service. And we will be rooting for you in the year ahead as you take on these important roles. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good luck. Thank you.
Thanks a million.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. And look forward to following up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you, Felipe. Thank you. Matthew, you were wait. Matthew, I'll call you before.
Okay, speak soon.
Bye.
Okay, bye.